Good, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Are you able to hear me okay? And see me? Okay, in the interest of time, I will then look to get started. So today's session, we are going to talk a little bit about the transformation teams as part of the transformation journeys which organizations are undertaking to drive their organizations towards successful DevOps operations. And let me switch to presentation mode. A little bit about myself. So my name is Sukhbir Jasuja, and I am a well-wisher and a board member, actually, in my role as a chairman for DASA. And I'll introduce DASA in a minute. My own experience comes from having worked for large organizations such as Procter & Gamble, and have built many tech startups over the last 2 decades. So a lot of what I am going to talk about is also as a result of experience having built a lot of the agile DevOps teams over the past 2 decades. I'm based out of the Netherlands and have lived here for the last 25 years or so. So I'm representing DASA, which stands for DevOps and Agile Skills Association. DASA has been around for best part of 5 years. It's established in 2016. Primary function of DASA is it's a research, knowledge creation, and community building organization, and facilitates development of communities in the DevOps areas. DASA also offers industry-leading certifications for leaders, IT leaders who are leading DevOps operations within their organizations or driving DevOps transformations, for DevOps coaches, practitioners, as well as obviously the team members, part of the high-performance DevOps teams. And DASA primarily provides a platform for leaders and practitioners to share DevOps experiences. And a lot of the work which DASA does is around providing guidance, practical guidance in the form of toolkits, in the form of skills frameworks, etc., to enable organizations to be able to move towards DevOps way of operating. So transformation, talent transformation, people readiness, a lot of the topics which are critical in driving transformation is something which is covered as part of the DASA's mandate. So on the right side of the screen on the top, you see the credentials which DASA publishes. And these are some of the organizations which leverage and benefit from the work that DASA does. Today's talk is actually a module. So it's a module as part of the DASA DevOps Leader Program. And so we are effectively going to talk a little bit about how to architect for successful transformations, and building a high-performance transformation team is an integral part of that. So just a very quick introduction to the program. So DevOps Leader Program is a credential certification program designed really for leaders to come together and participate in a journey which consists of exploring the various dimensions of transformation, starting with, as you can see, looking at high-performance digital organizations, what entails DevOps leaderships, and then shaping the DevOps transformation, and then exploring various dimensions of how do you create success and how do you create the right conditions for successful transformations, which include people, processes, as well as technology. That's how the program is built up in multiple modules. And today we are going to take a part of that module, which is sort of part of module 3, to zoom in to the high performance transformation teams themselves. I don't have to define transformation, but effectively, when we talk in terms of transformation, it's effectively about changing the way an organization is operating, the complete character, form, nature, and the appearance of how the organization effectively operates. And the program, a lot of the discussions in the leader program are built and based on the Kotter model, change model. I'm sure if you are involved in transformations and have been part of any transformation journeys, you must have come across Kotter's model, which really has become pretty much a standard in terms of how do you drive large-scale, complex transformations. And as you can see, it talks about creating a sense of urgency, building a guiding coalition, and goes through the most important dimensions, as well as the aspects to consider in terms of driving successful transformations. So today, we are going to focus on the dimension number 2, which is building a guiding coalition. In my view, a very critical part of the whole process is to build the right transformation team. And that's something which we are going to explore today. So as part of building the high performance transformation team, we are talking about effectively building, making sure that we are getting the right sponsorship within the organization, making sure that we have the right teams, the right skills, and also the right value systems represented, and making sure that we also understand how the transformation teams are effectively going to act as part of driving and building momentum towards successful transformation. So this whole idea of building the right coalition, guiding coalition within organizations is quite critical. It's also very complex. A lot of transformations also fail as a result of organizations being able to identify the right parts, right members within such a coalition. And that's something which we are going to explore today. It is obviously explored at length within the program itself. So to begin with, management buy-in. So there are two aspects which we want to discuss a little bit, right? So we want to talk a little bit about why, and what is the role of the management within this transformation process? Why is it relevant, as an example? So in a successful transformation, you can almost expect that the leadership plays an extremely critical role. So you can have chairman, president, or perhaps a division general manager if the scope of the transformation is limited to business division, which includes, could include anywhere from 5, 15, maybe even 50 people who come together and develop a shared commitment towards this renewal process, transformation which you're undertaking. And what you want to ensure is that it includes people who are actually giving the buy-in into the transformation process, and exclude those people who are, at least in the beginning of this process, not clearly bought into the whole process, right? So it must be led by leaders who are championing, sponsoring, and eventually this coalition can grow of leadership can grow towards also including others as they see the initial impact. But the core part of the coalition is represented by senior managers coming together, right? And so while board members and can be part of this, key customers can be included, perhaps even union leaders if organizations have unions. But the guiding coalition also must include members who are not only part of the senior management. So they tend to come from outside the normal hierarchy by definition. While it can be awkward at once, but it's also necessary. So the existing hierarchy might be working well, in which case there is no need for driving significant transformation. But if the current system is not working, the whole process of reform or change generally demands working outside the formal boundaries, creating different protocols, different expectations. And organizations which fail in this phase two of building the right guiding coalition have difficulties in terms of achieving the outcomes from transformations that they are working towards. So in my view, and so let's explore this a little bit more in somewhat more detail. How does the right constitution of the team looks like? So transformation team, as we said, should consist ideally of various levels represented within the organization, and avoid having too many leaders representing the same style of leadership, because that becomes counterintuitive as the transformation projects typically progress. It enhances the blind spots, which typically the coalition teams tend to have in terms of the concerns or communication which needs to happen within the organization as part of the transformation process. So this is an example of a composition of a well-balanced DevOps transformation team, ideally consisting of senior management representation. So whether that's head of IT, CIO, or one of their management team members who can represent IT, and preferably also a board member who is effectively acting as a sponsor, representing the business strategy and representing what are the guiding principles driving this transformation forward. Now, besides that, senior management and leadership, you require ideally coaching competence and capabilities within the team. These could be DevOps coaches. DASA itself offers a coach program, and we know based on the experience how critical these roles are within the organizations as part of their transformation roadmap. The crux of the team is built from the specialists, and these specialists include people involved in enabling change management elements or reorganization dimensions. They include business domain specialists, which bring in the business context and knowledge, which is required for proper articulation of change and values. The experts, the IT experts who bring in the knowledge and capabilities for identifying the right technologies to enable the change. And let's not miss on communication specialists. These people are highly important, and having an effective communication, multi-channel communication approach helps enormously in terms of the transformation journeys that the organizations tend to build and undertake. And finally, not to exclude the human resources who help with the change management aspects from a personnel implications perspective. So this is an example of what we would consider a well-balanced DevOps transformation team, which should be considered as organizations tend to take on transformations. Now, one of the models that we use and also recommend is it's probably very well known Belbin's model of team roles. So part of the process is to encourage and identify people who will be playing these various roles as part of the transformation process. So the team is not just a bunch of people, but it's a congregation of individuals having very specific roles, and every member understands what is the role that they are playing. And our research has also shown, and that of other organizations, that successful teams consist of a diverse mix of behaviors, right? And so this is also represented by Dr. Belbin as part of the construct of building these and offering these roles-based guidance to build the right coalition of teams. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that each role needs to be represented by exactly one person. An individual can play multiple roles. So you don't have to have exactly 9 people, because there are 9 roles which are mentioned here, where you can have still a team which consists of individuals who can play multiple roles, but they understand what role they are playing, and they have clarity around that as part of this transformation process and journey. Another dimension quite important is to ensure for the right type of diversity and focus also on the value system within the organization is the transformation itself should be feasible, right? There should be sufficient understanding of the change climate that you're undertaking this transformation in. And part of the insights, having the insights into the value system of the organizations helps increase the success possibility of such transformations. So we recommend the use of spiral dynamics model, which you see represented on the slide. And part of the process is to use this as an instrument to understand the transformations and behavior of the people in transformation team that they should be representing as part of the transformation. Now, let's take an example. If the organizational value system is predominantly green and orange, as an example, that means the transformation teams must focus more on communication and relationship building, because there is a lot of informal relationships which are core part of the value system within the organization. The team also must ensure in that case that the communication is representing the value system which exists, which includes intermediate results, communication, main objectives, key performance indicators that have been identified, because that will resonate much better with the organization's employee base, which are undergoing this transformation journey. However, take another example in a more traditional top-down managed organization, which is represented by the color red, with very clear structures, and it could also be blue, where conformity is a significant value element within the organization. It probably becomes successful if the transformation teams are coming across as very decisive, they're very clear about what will change, what the impact will be, when this is about to happen. So there is a very clear roadmap which is defined. And communicating in this form of organization effectively comes across as less empathetic than the green way, but the red way approach can also be highly rewarding during transformation, when people are looking for clarity, they're looking for strong leadership, and the value system of the organization is not built on informal relationships or caring and those types of dimensions, right? So important to understand and know the value system and the organizational culture, and that those behaviors are then imbibed and embedded as part of the transformation guiding coalition. So DASA, the DevOps and Agile Skills Organization, offers and has been offering guidance around leadership competence model for many years. And there is I think over 2,000 organizations have leveraged this competence model across the world to understand what is the right level of competence within the organization, right, at various stages of the transformation journey. So, for example, the model is also used for determining the readiness of the high performance teams as they operate in the DevOps mode. But also something which is very critical and relevant to the transformation journey itself. So the transformation team, which is driving the transformations, they can also leverage the competence model to make sure that there is right competence at the team level, not at the individual level, but at the team level. There's diversity of competencies which are required, which are critical. And at the team level, they are able to operate and bring all the key competencies which are required in order to be able to manage and drive these transformations. And as you can see on this transformation model, the transformational leadership is reflected on the left side of this spider graph, which includes critical elements which need to be accounted for and taken care of in this transformation process and in this transformation journey, right? So who will do what? Who brings what experience, what competence are all covered for in this competence model. And it comes with a lot of guidance to teams and organizations on how to adopt it, how to apply it as part of this journey. Equally important to consider, and perhaps something which we ignore because we are always looking for success and not always focused as much on the potential threats in driving successful transformations, is considering the anti-pattern, right? So what does a typical dysfunctional process, transformation team, transformation process, where do things go wrong, right? It's probably equally important to understand for the core transformation team that elements which cause challenges and issues stem from these points which are mentioned on the slide. So they include elements such as absence of trust, right? Trust is part of the critical part of the cohesive team. A dysfunctional team tends to have one of or more of these issues. So absence of trust, which means team members are reluctant to be vulnerable, to be open, unwilling to admit mistakes or share, their perspective on their weaknesses, or seeking help, right? So within the certain comfort level within the organizations, the foundation of trust is becomes impossible in such a scenario. Then you talk about fear of conflict as an example. So there's a concept of artificial harmony. As you know, constructive conflict is a critical element of driving any transformations, or in fact, running successful businesses, right? But the teams, when they lack the trust and therefore become incapable of engaging in sort of an unfiltered, passionate debate about issues, causing situations where teams very quickly start to talk in terms of veiled discussions and back channel communication. That is when things start to go wrong, because having constructive dialogue, even if they lead to difference of opinion and potential constructive conflicts, is an integral part of the transformation process, right? Lack of commitment. Now, without conflict, it's difficult for team members to commit to decisions, right? It's obvious based on all of our experiences, or creating an environment where ambiguity prevails. Being able to deal with ambiguity is an important part, right? But if ambiguity reigns as part of the transformation process, that becomes a significant issue, which leads to lack of direction, lack of commitment, and that this becomes problematic for employees, especially the star employees. They become disgruntled, disappointed, annoyed, not knowing and not having faith anymore in the transformation process. The next point being avoidance of accountability, right? When teams are not committing to a clear plan of action, right? So even the most focused and driven individuals can hesitate to call their peers on actions and behaviors that may seem counterproductive to the overall team's overall good, right? And that really leads to issues when key people stop taking radical accountability as part of the transformation journeys. And finally, inattention to details, to results. So team members tend to put their own needs or their ego or their own preferences around personal career development or personal recognition ahead of team's goals, especially when where individuals feel that they are not really accountable. And if the team has lost sight of the achievement, the transformation process suffers, the business ultimately suffers, and this becomes a real issue for the organizations as part of the transformation journey. Now, what I have covered is something which is quite a deep topic, right? It requires obviously a lot of thought and discussion and internal discussions to build this right guiding coalition within the organization, but based also on our research experiences, inputs from various leaders who have participated in such transformation journeys, also in the DevOps and Agile space, have repeatedly told us that the importance of building the guiding coalition is absolutely critical for the success of the transformation process, and empowering them. So that includes coaching, training, etc., are critical elements. Now, that's also something which DASA, as an organization, as a platform, focuses on, and something which we do research around. We write guidance documents. We develop toolkits to enable leaders as well as other senior managers within organizations on how to drive successful transformations as part of their journey to become a successful DevOps organization, operating successful high performance teams. I'm at the end of my time. I thank you very much for your attention, and I will be available in networking room 2 for anybody who might have more questions, feedback, anything which we can do to help. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.